Good morning. We are up here at Cleveland Hopkins International Airport. Just got on this Boeing 737 for a very special flight. This is the inaugural Sun Country flight out of Cleveland. We're going to head up to Minneapolis, Minnesota for the day. First impressions, lots of leg room. Got my bag under the seat. I got plenty of room to stretch out. Looking out over the wing. Reminds me a lot of Southwest, just with the interior on this aircraft. There are phone chargers, so that's a great thing. And ready to head up to MSP for the day. We do have a food and drink menu on board. As you can see, drinks are complimentary. There are some snacks that you can buy, and good news, this airplane has free Wi-Fi. So looking forward to taking advantage of that.
As we prepare for takeoff and complete our final safety checks, please make sure your seatbelt is securely fastened, seat back and tray tables are...
Alright, we just broke out above the clouds. It's been kind of a dreary, rainy day in Cleveland. We're on a 1 hour, 33-minute flight up to Minneapolis. Kind of taking a look at the seat, got the safety cards. Pretty smooth flight so far. Only about 50%, maybe 60% full at most. It is an interesting fact that Frontier is also starting service to Minneapolis today out of Cleveland, so that might have drawn away some of the passengers. Really looking forward to see how this service compares and to see how much it can compete with the Delta and Frontier flights already. But as you can see right now, we got a nice big tray table, probably the biggest tray table I've ever seen on a 737. So lots of room for your laptop. Also got a nice little drink holder. Love to sit back, relax, and enjoy views like this. In-flight service began moments after the captain turned off the no smoking sign, probably 15 minutes after takeoff. For free, you get a cup of water or an ice and a can of pop. You do have to buy food on board. There's no free snacks, but they do get complimentary beverages, which is pretty nice. One thing I will say about the Wi-Fi that is on board, you can't text or get on Facebook or anything like that and stay in contact with your friends and family. So that's kind of a bummer with the Wi-Fi. It only works with their website. Sun Country right now does not have an app, which is pretty unusual. I have heard that there are some plans to develop an app here in the very near future, but right now you just have to get on your phone, select the Wi-Fi, and then go to Sun Country's website. And then that's how you would access your library of free movies and free music and games, which is pretty nice. They do have a pretty decent selection of movies, not quite to maybe the extent of one of the major airlines like United or Delta, but still a decent selection of movies and TV shows and stuff like that to keep yourself entertained on the flight. The in-flight entertainment is also free, which is really nice, and you don't have to download an app. Alright, we just broke out of the clouds and we are on final approach into Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. Look out the window, you can see a Delta Connection CRJ. That CRJ took off out of Cleveland Hopkins just before we did. And it looks like they're going to beat us into town by just a few seconds. However, the views out the window are beautiful and you can clearly see why they call this the land of 10,000 lakes. So just a couple of thoughts that I had as we touched down in Minneapolis today on Sun Country. First thing I got to say is I have plenty of room. I am in an exit row, so that gives me a little bit more space, but overall I am not cramped whatsoever in this aircraft. Free Wi-Fi and free drinks, always a huge plus. Free entertainment without downloading an app is always a nice win if you don't want to download an app or save some space on your phone. The crews are super friendly, and the flight was cheap. I only paid about $61 for this flight, so you really can't beat that. So a couple of downsides I'd have to say after this flight. First thing I'd have to say is not having the ability to send messages in such a connected world that we have today. Not being able to send text or Facebook messages or things like that after a couple of hours can certainly be a little painful, especially if you have family and friends at home. The seats certainly had a cheap feel to them. I could feel the person behind me putting their knees into the back of my seat, which I really don't notice so much in a lot of flights, but I certainly felt it on this one. And then the final thing I'd have to say about this flight is that this airplane was only 9 years old, but certainly looking at the paint, looking at the seats and things like that, it did feel like it was certainly a little bit more beat up than most aircraft I've been on around the same age. And then the final thing I have to say as far as a con is that there just aren't a lot of options as far as the time. It's only a once a daily flight out of Cleveland. It only goes to one destination. But if I did have to say anything, if I absolutely was going to go to Minneapolis, I would absolutely book Sun Country over something like a Frontier or a Spirit or something like that. Alright, well, we just landed at Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. I really enjoyed my flight on Sun Country. Kind of remind me a little bit of maybe like a budget Southwest. So nothing to really complain about with them. Probably the most underrated airline, or maybe the airline that people hasn't thought about. So we're in Terminal 2 here at MSP. And in order to book our next flight, we have to get into Terminal 1. Unlike most airports, though, these two terminals are not connected, so we have to go downstairs and get on the light rail. Oh, they had this really cool playground for kids over in Terminal 2, which I really appreciated that. I also have to say that most of the time when you're in a budget carrier, you're going to the second terminal. It's usually not the nicest concourse, but really this is a pretty nice terminal. So if you're flying on Southwest or Frontier or Spirit or Sun Country, it's actually not a very bad experience, unlike some airports I've been to where I've flown in on one of the budget carriers. So we're heading downstairs. We actually have to catch the light rail, which is the same light rail that you would take if you're going to go to downtown Minneapolis or if you're going to go to the Mall of America. It's a free trip if you're going to go from Terminal 1 to Terminal 2 or vice versa. However, you do have to go outside of security. So the biggest recommendation I would have to say that to anyone who's going to Minneapolis would be either stay on the same airline, so stay on Delta, stay on Frontier, whatever airline that you flew in, or make sure you give yourself plenty of time for a layover. And by plenty of time, I would say no less than 4 hours, because you are going to have to go outside, you are going to have to wait on the train, you might have to wait 15-20 minutes to get that train, and then you're going to have to go back through security again, do the luggage and all that kind of stuff. So if you fly in on Frontier or Sun Country and then your next leg is on Delta or something like that to try to save money, just please make sure you give yourself enough time, because if you only give yourself an hour, maybe 2 hour layover, you're probably not going to make your flight. So there's just something to think about. I will say that we're going down to the train terminal outside, and it is really nice. It feels clean. It feels safe. See, you can get tickets here if you're going to go downtown. If you're going to go to the Mall of America, which is probably the biggest draw for a lot of people, it's only a 12-minute train trip to the Mall of America from the airport, which is pretty nice. One thing I definitely would say, though, is that it's not very well laid out as far as the signs, so just make sure you get on the right train. That way you don't end up maybe going to the wrong place. As far as I know, both trains go straight to the other terminal first, but I'm not 100% sure on that. So I really couldn't find anybody to ask. But it is really clean down here. It's not, I don't see a lot of like homeless people hanging around or something like that, like I've seen in other cities when I've got onto their light rail or taking public transportation. So very, very clean. I did think that was interesting, though, is that there's no one to collect tickets when we got onto the train. So I don't know if they're just assuming that everyone's going over to Terminal 1, but there was no one there to collect tickets. So we just got on the train and we went over to Terminal 1. You go underground through the subway, which is pretty cool, and then you come out at the bottom of the staircase going into the parking garage for Terminal 1, which we're in now. Pretty neat that you can see the rental car facility outside. So the train kind of dumps you out in the parking garage. You can take these elevators and they will take you to either the parking garage level that you want to go to or to the walkway that'll take you over to the terminal. There is actually a tram that you have to take as well. So you can take the terminal train over to the terminal, or if you are leaving from the parking garage, there is about a quarter-mile walkway that you could take, or you can take another tram that'll take you directly into the security area for Terminal 1. And the first thing I got to say is really interesting stores here. A store dedicated to Prince, which I thought was pretty neat. Several bookstores, lots of restaurants and things like that in Terminal 1. Terminal 1 is really, really nice. Of course, this is the primary terminal for Delta Airlines. This is Delta's second largest hub outside of Atlanta. So Terminal 1 is super nice. Lots of stores. Lots of adventure stores. People come up to Minneapolis, go to Minnesota, and go out to the woods and things like that. So a lot of bookstores. This bookstore is after my heart. But definitely Terminal 1 is really nice. There's a really nice food court. And then the concourses all have their own individual food courts as well. I thought this PGA experience was pretty cool. There's definitely a Mall of America vibe to the airport, which is cool. And of course there is this little stand for Spam. So I hope you enjoyed the trip. If you fly to Minneapolis, I really hope that you enjoy it. Just please make sure you give yourself plenty of time if you're going to go from one terminal to another. And if you like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button down below, comment down below, and we'll catch you next time. Thank you all so much for watching.